Hi guys, this is Advanced Music Theory, lesson number 8. And we're actually going to do a simple analysis of a piece of music now. And by analysis, I mean chord analysis of a piece of music. Because I want you guys to see how these concepts kind of tie together into the beginning of one of the most important things in music theory called the harmony. And as I mentioned before, harmony is the idea that different chords and different chord inversions and different chord voicings that are written from different scale degrees can actually be combined together to create the what's called the harmonic structure of a piece of music. So we're going to go to analysis of this Canadian national anthem called "O Canada." And I've skipped quite a few lessons here. A lot of these lessons are related to ones that I've done. I do encourage you to go through them on your own. And they shouldn't be too confusing because they're very similar to the lessons that I covered just before. They just kind of expand on the concepts that I already talked about. But that's why I skipped them. I wanted to make sure that I got to do a simple analysis with you guys so that you guys kind of can see how the dots connect. The only other one that I skipped that is actually somewhat new content is this one, voicing chords. This lesson is pretty short, and all it's talking about is how you can take a triad and reorder the notes within a triad, not just to make different inversions, but actually to reorganize the where the different notes of the chord are placed, and you can actually make different versions of the same chord by just sorting where the different notes go, and also by changing where, like, which octave you put certain notes. So you can create a lot of different combinations or voicings of the same chords. And one of the reasons why I skipped it is because we're actually going to see that in the analysis of the Canadian national anthem. So you'll see exactly what I mean when I talk about voicing in this. So let's go ahead and click on that lesson. So this is a pretty important part of music theory, being able to analyze the chords and figuring out what scale degrees they belong to. It gives us a sense of the structure of a piece that is super important. So we're going to take a few measures of O Canada, which, like I said, is the national anthem of Canada. And this is the piece. And if you recall from the very first video that I made in the advanced music theory, this is what's called polyphony, and in this case is 4-part polyphony, because we have 4 parts or 4 note chords that all the way through. So you see this is our treble line, the second line is what you could call the alto line, the third to last is the tenor line, and finally the bottom is the bass line. So with this, we can kind of figure out what the chord structure of this piece is. So I first want to play it for you guys before we really get into the analysis. So you may have heard it. If you haven't, you can listen to the total song, but this is just 4 bars. We're going to start small. So the first thing we need to figure out is what the key signature is. And in this case, we have 3 flats, B flat, E flat, and A flat. And if you remember, the second to last flat is E flat, which means that 2 possible keys could use this key signature. One could be E flat major, and the other one could be its relative minor, which is C minor. Let's take a look. Before we make a decision of which key it is, let's take a look at this first chord and figure out what it is. So the first chord has E flat, B flat, and then another E flat, and then G. So if you look carefully, this is actually an E flat major triad. We have E flat, G, and then B flat over here. And if you notice, this is actually rearranged. We have E flat at the bottom, so this is triad in root position, but the triad is not kept in its original form. It's actually being reordered, or like it has a different voicing. We've taken E flat, and then instead of putting G over here, which would have been a closed triad, we've actually taken that G and put it at the very top in the treble line, in the soprano line. So we've reordered this triad to make a new voicing. But because we have E flat at the bottom in the bass line, we still have a root position chord. So this is E flat major, which lets us know that not only is this E flat major the key of E flat major, but this chord is the first degree, or the first degree triad of E flat major. And this is also called a tonic, and is labeled by a capital 1 in Roman numerals, capital I. So, okay, let's move on to the second chord. All right, so the second chord has D natural at the bottom, B flat, F natural, and B flat at the top. So if we kind of take a closer look, we will see that this is actually a B flat major triad that has been revoiced. It has been reorganized to have a different voicing. So if you look, we have B flat, D is right here at the bottom. So the third degree of that chord, the third note of that chord, is at the bottom. And so B flat, D, and then F is over here. So this is our B flat major triad revoiced. And because we have the third note of the triad at the bottom of the chord, that's our bass note. And if we put the third note of a triad at the base of the chord, we end up with the first inversion. So that's why we've written 6 here. 6 is our first inversion. That's just the way that we label a first inversion chord, because the interval between D, or the third note, and the root, which is B flat, is going to be a sixth interval, and that's why we write 6. Now, also B flat major, in the context of E flat major, B flat is the 5th degree of the scale. So we're going to label that as uppercase 5, which is the 5th degree of the scale, and it's a major triad with a 6, which is made to symbolize that it's in the first inversion. Another way to call the 5th chord of a key is the dominant. You remember from scale degrees, when we labeled scale degrees, we talked about the names for the scale degrees. And this is the dominant. The 5th degree is called the dominant. It's a very important chord. So moving on to the third chord. With this, the third chord is actually the same as the second. So we're actually kind of going to the fourth chord, which is the third unique chord. It's a new chord here. So here in the fourth chord, we're going to have the notes C, G, C, and E flat. And if you look carefully, this voicing is very similar to this one. We have a 5th at the bottom, and then a 4th in between G and C, and then a 3rd at the top, and the minor 3rd specifically. So that means that if we reorder this chord, this voicing, we're actually ending up with a C minor triad. We have C, E flat, G. It's just being reordered or voiced to give it a different sound. So because we have C, which is the root of C minor, in the bass line, we actually still have root position chord, even though it's been revoiced. And C minor is the 6th degree. C is the 6th degree of an E flat major scale. So we have sixth chord or sixth degree chord here, and it's labeled with a lowercase v and I, which is 6 in Roman numeral, and it's lowercase because we have a minor triad. So you see, if you work through these examples like that, you can kind of get a feel for how different scale degree triads and different inversions kind of work together to make different songs. Let's kind of go through and do a few more and see if we have time to get all the way to the end of this. So the second chord of this second bar is a B flat at the bottom, another B flat over here, which is an octave above, D natural, which is a third above that, and then F natural, which is a third above D. So this is B flat major because we have B, D, and F. B flat, D, and F. We just simply have this octave over here, which is separating the bass line from the rest of the triad. But this part is actually a normal triad in its closed form. And then we just have a lower octave. So we still have a root position chord here. And B flat is once again the fifth degree of E flat. And that's the dominant. Okay. And we're back to, so this first chord of the third measure is actually the same, as you notice, as the first chord of the first bar. It's the same voicing even, it's exactly the same. So that's also going to be a first degree major, and that's called the tonic. So we've gone from 5 dominant to tonic. This motion of dominant to tonic, resolving, which is the next chord is the tonic. This is pretty common. It's a very important kind of chord progression, which is called. So the second chord of this bar is C in the bass, A flat, E flat, and A flat. And if you put this in closed triad form, you're going to end up with an A flat major triad. So A flat's here. This is the root. It's written on the soprano line. And C, which is going to be down here on the bass line. And then E flat, which is going to be over here. And we also have another A flat here in the tenor line. So we have 2 A's, an E, and a C. Because C is the third note of this triad. This is in first inversion, and that's why we have a 6 here. And the A flat major triad, relative to E flat major, which is the key of the piece, is the 4th degree of the scale. And being a major triad, we label it with uppercase Roman numeral for 4. The 4th degree of a scale is called subdominant, and the subdominant is also important because usually the subdominant and the dominant are going to be closely related. They're often going to go one after the other in typical Western music harmony. So I'm just giving you guys kind of like a sampling of how harmony works. This is just like the beginning foundation of that. All right, so the third chord here of this bar is an E flat major triad that has been opened. It has an open voicing. As you can see, you have some pretty big intervals separating them. And we have G at the bottom, and G is the third note of an E flat major triad, which means that once again we have a first inversion chord. And E flat is the tonic of E flat major, so we have a first degree is the first scale degree of E flat. So we write uppercase I. And finally, the last 2 chords are A flat, C, E flat, and C. And this is going to be an A flat major triad. Is in root position because we have A flat at the bottom. So no inversion here, just root position. And A flat relative to E is the 4th degree, or the subdominant, and is being labeled as uppercase 4 in Roman numeral. And the final chord is 5, or a dominant in root position. That's B flat, octave higher, D, and F. It's the same chord as this one. So you see how these chords work together. Let's listen. Now that we've done the analysis, let's listen one more time so you get another go at listening to how the chord progression works together. All right. So this is it for advanced music theory, and I just wanted to end with basic harmony, because this is, like I said, one of the most important things about music theory, and one of the most useful things as well. So continue to explore the lessons, musictheory.net, and also look up your own resources, and like continue to learn on your own. Music theory is something that can be learned by self-study, which I think is great. If you take your time with it, you'll be able to understand the concepts if you do some self-study. And there are a lot of great resources online as well. Also on YouTube, there are a lot of great videos about music theory that you can follow. All right, see you guys later.